Alright, now we're on to the right Joy-Con. Very similar process, but a little bit different. First thing, obviously, let's get this back shell off. We will need our tri or Y00, and you've got 4 screws. Once you remove all 4 screws, we're going to try and pry this back cover off. Again, just being careful because there is a ribbon cable holding on the rail. Okay, open that right up. Let's just start with the rail. That's going to be the same process. You've got, well, we're going to flip to Phillips. You've got 1 screw holding the rail to the back plate. And then you've got 2 screws holding the circuit board to the rail. And then we've got our ribbon cable connecting the rail to the main board. I want to get to that ribbon cable next, so I'm going to start working on the middle section here. So pop up the battery, same process, get underneath. There's just a little bit of glue. Now there's one difference you'll see right now. This here, this sensor, this is not part of the left Joy-Con. This is only in the right. So you just got to kind of set that to the side. That's actually an antenna, and I already popped it off the board, so you can see how easily that came off. Not broken. This just needs to go onto the board itself. So I'm just going to set to the side, and we'll get back to that later. All right, let's go ahead and remove the screws for this midsection. So I'm going to go ahead and pop off the trigger right now as well. And you'll see when I did that, I actually threw a spring. The kit comes with new springs, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. But you'll see you've got 2 screws now at the top. That's actually what's holding in the mid frame. So we'll go ahead and remove those. And we will also get that spring out of there and remove the screw holding on the actual trigger button. Now this mid frame should just lift right out. With the mid frame out, I can go ahead and disconnect the rail. You've got on the opposite side of the ribbon cable, there's a little tiny tab you got to pop up, and that will allow the ribbon cable to come right out, and we can get rid of that. Let's go ahead and remove the shoulder button. Now we're down to the main board. I'm just going to go ahead and remove all the screws for this. You've got 2 right up at top here, 2 holding on the analog stick, and that is going to be it. Right down here you've got your sensor, and that is going to come out with the rumble. There's actually a big cable, like a flat ribbon cable underneath the main board that's all glued in. So this does get a little bit tricky. So the first thing I'm going to do is just try and get up the rumble. Okay, that's up. And then I hope you can see this, but you can see how you've got our sensor here. And then you've got this black ribbon cable. That's actually going to an entire array underneath here. So we need to pull that up. It is stuck down a little bit. Not too difficult to get up, but you don't want to rip anything. You don't want to damage anything. So then what we can do is just kind of pull up the main board. And I'll try and show you guys everything that's underneath there. Yeah, let's see if I can flip this up. We're going to make a little bit of a mess, but it's okay. You can see how you've got this entire pad. That all has to come up, and there is a little bit of glue holding that in. So you just got to get underneath that and pop it up. And then again, we've got, oh, and that just came right out. This is the little grommet underneath the analog stick. And that's all of that. I'm just going to kind of set it to the side here. Let's bring in our new front plate and get our new buttons. So with this specific kit, it comes with a home button, and then it comes with a separate little plastic piece you got to press the home button into. They do make it nice where you can only go in one way, so you don't have to worry about it being upside down. But basically you're just going to put it in there and press it into place. And then that home button is going to go right there. And we'll grab the membrane for the home button. And now we need to get our new ABXY buttons. I'll drop in the plus button now and grab the membrane for that. And here's where we get to have fun with ABXY. So B is at the bottom. There's our B. Now they do have specific little plastic things that should make it they can only go in a certain way, and that's going to help out. A is on the outside. There we go. X is on top. And Y is on the inside. Okay, perfect. Then we grab our membrane, drop that into place, and there we go. Now the task of moving everything over. So with that, we need to make sure that this guy goes flat underneath. We need to get our analog stick in place as well. Just kind of start flipping everything over and laying it into place. And just being gentle with it. Obviously, we don't want to break anything. When I get towards the end, I do like to lift it off of the table because the analog stick and the buttons and the membranes and everything will kind of push it up. And then once you're like that, we can try and put in a couple screws to help us out. Alright, now we're in good shape. We got those screws in that are kind of holding everything in place. Now that we're here, I do want to reconnect this antenna. And what you'll see is there's a little copper gold connector, and then down here on the board right here it looks like a circle with a pin in the middle, and that's what that's going to connect to. So it's just going to push into place. So you can get it into the right spot and then use your nail or use a spudger or anything that's going to just pop it down. And if you don't feel it popping immediately, you can kind of wiggle it around, but it should just slide into place. It's all friction fit, so it should just push down into place. Okay, let's just keep that out of the way. Now I want to put our shoulder button back in. This one looks like it's in pretty good shape, so I'm just going to leave that spring in there to save me the hassle. Okay, now we'll grab our new mid-frame. Oh, you know what, while we're here, before I put this mid-frame in, let's go ahead and reattach the rail. I lost a button already, but that's fine. And this is where it gets a little tricky because you just got a lot of ribbon cables into small spaces. So we're just going to try and get this guy back in. Gold up top. Once that's secured in place, go ahead and drop down the plastic. And then give it a little tug just to make sure you're good, and we're good. Alright, this button fell out, so let's put that back in place. And pops right back out on its own, that's fine. You might need to hold it there while you get the mid-frame and tuck the mid-frame in place, because the mid-frame will hold that shoulder button down. Okay. Oh, it looks like one of my membranes slipped. I'm not sure if you can see it, but right there, it just doesn't seem like it's in the right spot, and I think that's what's causing me issues right now. There we go. Let's try and get some screws in and see if that helps. So with the mid-frame, we got some screws right up top. There we go. Now we're snapped into place. And let's just keep attaching this mid-frame. Now I can already feel that the membrane's off. This button's not pressing down. So that's what's causing issues. So we gotta get this apart and fix that membrane. That's the problem, is the membranes, while you're doing all this work and putting everything down and trying to get everything perfect, they can slip, and if they move around at all and they're not centered properly, it's not going to work. So let's pull out this mid-frame, and it's going to be this top piece here, so Let's see if we can just take out these two screws and fix it that way. So I'm going to kind of just try and lift up the main board here, see if I can get into there and fix that. Yeah, that's much better. Much better. Okay. And I'm just feeling for it, right? Everything should kind of fit snug. This is definitely where it gets more difficult. If everything doesn't go together perfectly on the first try, you gotta kind of just take everything apart and try again. I think that's much better though. Okay. Shoulder button. Mid-frame, tuck it underneath the trigger. And also be careful, all these wires down here need to go underneath it. Of course, the shoulder button popped out. Push that back down. There we go. And I'm just feeling the other side now, making sure the buttons feel good, and they do. So I am good to put some screws in. Okay, much better feel. Yep. Yep, that looks good. Okay. So next I want to go ahead and put down the trigger button. Similar setup as the other side. You've got a bunch of guide pins and one screw. I should say one guide pin, but the rest of the plastic also is set up to kind of guide it into place. And you just tighten that down. Now we got to do our two springs, in which I did lose one of them, but the kit comes with springs, so you're fine there. So you're good to replace the springs if you'd like. And, sorry guys, the springs drop into these two little spots, and then we're going to grab a new trigger. ZR brand new trigger. And this is just going to pop into place, and you got to do the same thing. Just try and line it up with those two springs, and hope for the best. And I got it on the first try. Now that that's all together, we can go ahead and flip the battery into place. We can put our antenna back in this little side slot here. Just slides in there. And then the antenna cable, this gray cable here, just kind of tucks in next to the battery. That one's another one you got to kind of be worried about because you don't want to pinch it. And it does just want to pop out every time you move it around. I was like, I got an extra screw. Yeah, I didn't do this bottom screw on the mid frame. There we go. So let's go ahead and get our new buttons here. Once the new buttons are on, we can reconnect the circuit board. We can bring in our back shell, install the quick release button, and then attach the rail. And now we can put everything together. The only place I'm having trouble is right here at the bottom. There's the metal for the rumble and the plastic for the actual back of the shell. And there we go. Just had to flex it over that. Snap everything together. Let's get some screws in here and make sure everything feels good. And I'm actually going to use all new screws because they are Phillips and they came with the kit. Alright, final button check. I'm just pressing every button to make sure it feels good. There isn't anything that's too tight or out of place. And that one is not. I can see it just doesn't, it's not pressing the way I want it to, so we got to take everything apart. Alright, it's pressing okay now that I've taken out those screws. So maybe just had everything a little too tight. Let's see. Oh, you can see this one seems a little more flexed than this one. Let's take that whole button out. Maybe there's something with the button itself that I need to adjust. Maybe there's a burr or something on there that's... There is a burr on the side from the plastic, so I can definitely try and scrape that off. Let's see if that helped. Alright, let's give that a shot. Yeah, I think we're good. Yep, okay. So it just had a couple burrs from that plastic that I had to pull off. Let's get the screws back in, test it one more time, and make sure we are good. Alright, one more fit test. Yep, we're good. And there we go, guys. Custom shells installed on a set of Nintendo Joy-Cons. I hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.